check real quick and make sure we don't have any dangle clacks happening. I think we're good to go. Yeah! All right. Well, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to TBN. TBN. Look, this is the stream where we really focus down on what's important here for us in the vape space, and that is advocacy and activism and legislation and policy and science and tobacco and fact checking. I don't know. I couldn't think. You have 6. I have 5 up. That's fine.
Can we even count?
We can't even count here at TBN. This is my co-host. It's Danielle Jones. It's my fact checker, Danielle Jones, president of CASAA. It's no big deal. I'm your freedom-loving, bad libertarian host, GrimmGreen, and we're here today. Yeah, like I said, we're going to focus down on some news, focus down on some science-y stuff, focus down on some very low nicotine cigarettes. We're going to talk about Joe Rogan a little bit. He had someone on his shows talking about vaping, and he's so close. He's just not quite there of grasping it. What else? I want to speculate about our possible new head of the FDA, Robert Califf, which we've speculated about before, and we still don't have any real information about what he thinks about vaping or anything, but it's still fun. It's still fun to speculate because, look, we might have a new head of the FDA. That's kind of a big deal for us, for vapors in general. We're going to see if he's going to toe the company line or if he's going to implement radical changes or anything like that. And and additionally, we're here to just kind of speculate like what we're going to do in 2022 moving forward. What is the future of vaping? We're going to take some advice from Matt Culley. He had a great Twitter thread, talking about arguments and effective arguments and things that might not be so effective anymore, and it was kind of right around this time last year when Biden was on the way in, the Biden administration was on the way in. And you remember we had that stream about like, how do we change our messaging? How do we change our I don't even remember what word I used.
It was like talking to the different political parties. Like,
right.
We've been using these talking points because, Republicans were in power, and now that a Democrat is, perhaps other talking points. Shifting our strategy a little bit, and that's something I would really like to see in 2022 because, I don't want to spoil the surprise. We'll get to Matt's thread when we get there, but a lot of the arguments we've been using haven't been super effective. Just, I think in general, a lot of the arguments we have been using for vaping haven't been super effective, but we want to be more effective. Right.
That's
and there's
the goal.
A time and a place for certain arguments.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Definitely. Dolphinately. Absolutely. I appreciate you guys being here in chat. The dedicated advocates. I see you there. Sexy King Phil, Addy Tooney. Bro, always a pleasure to see you. Mr. Cherokee Vapor. Jason, I see you there. Mike Buh is here. Mike Buh. Appreciate you being here, Mike Buh. And I just like to say your name like that. SVK Vapes, I see you there, buddy. Appreciate you guys being here. I guess we'll just jump right into this because there was 2 things I wanted to mention at the beginning here. EcigIntelligence. Yes, EcigIntelligence Survey.
Last week. I think they're closing it this week.
This is the last week it can be done? Yep. Do you want to speak to this, Danielle?
Yeah, I think, and I'm not 100% sure what day they're closing it this week. Hopefully it's not closed already, but I do know that this was supposed to be the last week. They are, every year, CASAA partners with EcigIntelligence to help promote this survey to, the vape people who vape. This is a survey collecting information about U.S. vapors, kinds of products you use, the kinds of liquids you use, how certain legislation affects you, how you might react in given policy situations, and it is helpful information.
Yes.
I was even told by their survey guy, I think that FDA even pays attention, apparently, to the results of their survey. So it's good to have more information. It's always good to have more data. And this year's turnout for the survey was pretty darn low. I'm going to go ahead and be honest with you guys. So if anybody's got a free
come on
15, I mean, it's a lengthy survey. It takes about 10 or 15 minutes. I will, get a snack. But if you've got a spare 10 minutes in the next, hopefully it's still open. I haven't clicked the link. But please do this if you haven't. It is very helpful, and it's going to end shortly.
Yeah, so. It ends this week. That's why I want to kind of throw it out there. And just like it says in this CASAA tweet, are you tired of being called an anecdote? Yeah. Who isn't? What vapor isn't tired of being called an anecdote? It says CASAA works collaboratively with EcigIntelligence to develop this consumer survey questions that aid us in our advocacy efforts and help take the pulse of the vaping community. Why do you think it's less why do you think there's less submissions this year? You think less people are vaping?
I think less people are doing advocacy, if I'm being completely honest with you.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's probably a real reality.
CASAA has seen numbers down in people participating in calls to action, and people donating to us. Like, everything is down, to be completely honest with you. So I think a lot of it is people just not necessarily being active in the vape community. I don't know if they're, not vaping at all. I'm not sure if they're just not doing community stuff, not being online, not doing advocacy.
I get you. Is this global, or is this survey for U.S. only? Asking for
US
Thobai.
Only.
U.S. only. U.S. only, Thobai. U.S. only. Good question, though, Thobai. I didn't know that. I thought it was an international thing.
No, this is specifically about the U.S. market and U.S. consumers.
Okay, specifically. So get there. I'll post a link down in the description to this EcigIntelligence survey. Just do it. Just take 15 minutes. Do it. You're contributing a wealth of information. You're contributing to a base of information and testimonials that can only be a positive thing. And I guess I'll throw this out there too. CASAA Testimonials. Do a CASAA testimonial. They have thousands of testimonials from thousands of vapors across the United States. And I always say this. I said this last year. I'll say it this year. Anywhere you have the chance to do a testimonial, definitely do it. Tell your story. Tell your story. Stories are going to be, I think, one of the things that is really important. I hate to bring up Julie Casimiro from Rhode Island every single time, but she was an anti-vaping politician. She listened to her constituents' stories. She went to a vape shop. She saw the operation there. And because of those stories and her experience, well, now she's changed. She's all flip-flopped on the subject, and now she's pro-vaping, and she's trying to undo bad vaping legislation in the state. So, look, you never know when your story will affect a politician.
And we know this from lots of other things, right? We know this about, there have been campaigns for, the LGBTQ community.
Absolutely.
Like, if you know somebody, chances are you're more likely to empathize with this group of people. Same with marijuana, same with all of these things, right?
Yeah.
Once grandma is using cannabis too, everybody's like, well, it can't be that bad, right? Like, it humanizes it when more people know people who do it. And so the more you talk about it and tell your story, the more it humanizes. They're not just those weird vapors on Twitter. Like,
right, exactly.
That's my neighbor, and he quit smoking, and I like my neighbor, and I like that he doesn't smoke anymore, so maybe I like vaping. So maybe vaping's not that bad. Maybe vaping helps someone I know or someone I love. Right.
Maybe it can't be that bad, right? It's a good idea. I wanted to throw this out there. I don't know that I saw anything from CASAA on this, not to throw the president under the bus at the moment, but Olympia, Washington, there's going to be a public hearing Thursday, January 13th. I don't know what this is in regards to. I don't know what HB 1676 is. This was given to me on Twitter. Someone said, can you show this on your stream on Tuesday? I said, yes, of course. Olympia, Washington, anti-vaping bill. Couldn't find any specifics, but there appears to be a public hearing this Thursday, January 13th, if you're in Olympia, Washington state. I can only assume it's either a flavor ban or taxes or usage ban.
don't. Alex is king of the local stuff, so I'm not 100% sure. I can ask him about it, but that I do not know.
Okay. Well, I'm throwing this out there. There's some emails. You can email legislators there in Washington. I know that Washington State doesn't have a lot of pro vaping. I don't know, official pro vaping people there. The state of Washington is very anti vaping. Mm. It's like California, you know. It's like a California. Yeah. They're trying to go to every city, pass bad legislation, that kind of stuff. But there you go.
It isn't. Yeah, it's entirely possible that Alex is working on something, but I don't 100% know. I delegate that stuff.
Yeah. Hey, look, delegate away. And look, if Alex is king of the local stuff, then let Alex be king of the local stuff.
Yeah, I don't have anything on my sheets right in front of me, but I can ask and we'll follow up.
Yeah, Washington State, Olympia, Washington. Get out there and go to the public hearing on Thursday, January 13th. I have no other information other than this infographic that was sent over to me, but I wanted to make sure to get it out there in the world. Am I too loud? I feel like I'm way too loud. What's going on, Sergio? I see you there, buddy. Hope you're doing good. Welcome. Appreciate you being here. Let's quickly... Ooh, can I even play this?
Meanwhile, in the f***ing UK.
Yeah. Meanwhile, in the UK, there is a chain of stores called Sainsbury stores. These are like grocery retail outlet locations, like a CVS type of thing.
Okay.
And I saw this on Twitter. He says, can we just take a minute to applaud Sainsbury's for putting vapes and pouches in their medicine aisle? Most smokers will never have heard of these pouches, so to see them on display like this rather than tucked away behind the cigarette counter is refreshing. Look at that. Yay. Look at what happens when you live in a country that supports vaping and harm reduction.
They have they have a sign that says vaping. They have a section.
They have a whole section there with vaping, just vapor products. And they have, additionally, they're going to have, they have like nicotine pouches in here. I don't know I think snus is still not super allowed in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, EU in general, now at Brexit, but yeah, Europe has not fully embraced the snus either. They have the same problem that the US has with snus.
Yeah, which is...
Well, theirs is worse, actually, because I think they ban it. We don't ban it. We do have products here. But I think it's actually banned in the EU.
The objection to snus seems to be purely moral.
Yeah, I mean, it gets lumped in with other types of like oral, or really
tobacco
the big problem is,
products.
Right. It gets lumped in. There was a study, I think we talked about this when we talked about smokeless tobacco. There was a study done in like the 70s or the 80s that was actually on powdered dry snuff, which is a product that you snort. And that had some increased risk for like certain cancers or something. We don't typically consider that a harm reduction product. It was about that product. It didn't have anything to do with snus, but it got like lumped in there with like all, oral tobaccos or all smokeless tobaccos. And that started a lot of the BS that goes on about all smokeless tobaccos, even though that study was only about one very particular thing that you actually snort. Not
it's like
mouth,
a completely different product.
Yeah.
But because it's like in the same family,
right.
And
it's kind of like
associated.
The whole Ivali situation.
Right.
Like,
yes.
It's kind of like Ivali, right?
Yes.
Because somebody added something to a THC product, that means everything is terrible. Like,
yes.
It's sort of like that.
Yes. That is a really good way to put it. That's really unfortunate. Yeah, that makes me insane, actually. That makes me completely insane, actually, that people write off an entire, I don't know what to call it, subset of products.
Category?
Yeah, like product category, where snus could really help a lot of smokers and a lot of, nicotine-dependent people. But dry snuff that you inhale, well, that could be bad for you. That could be worse. So let's make a blanket statement about all this stuff.
Yeah. Even though it's totally different products, but it's all bad.
It's all bad. If it has nicotine and it's in the United States, chances are it's bad. It's predatory.
Unless it comes from a pharma company.
Unless it comes from a pharma company, then you're okay. then you're a little bit okay. Or unless you're the Vuse Solo, the only legal product on the market right now in the United States right now.
Right.
Vuse Solo. Oh, I'll never not laugh at the Vuse Solo.
You've actually tried it.
I have tried it. I have one. I have a spare cartridge too. That came with a 2-pack. Came with a 2-pack of terrible tasting cartridges. Terrible tasting. And it doesn't even, like, if it was satisfying in some way, like if it produced vapor and you got a good throat hit from it, I'm like, okay, like bare minimum, this could be a thing.
Right.
But man, it's borderline worse than what I started with in 2009 that like kept me being a dual user for like a month, you know? Anyway, that's nicotine in the United States. We hate nicotine. We want to get it out of cigarettes even.
Yup.
And so that's a thing that's definitely going to happen. Let's see. What other things did I have real quick at the top here that I wanted to mention? Here, we can mention Joe Rogan. Let's mention Joe Rogan here at the beginning. A comedian named Suzanne Santo. I believe she's a comedian. I honestly didn't do a deep dive into her to see why she was even on the Joe Rogan Experience, but I believe her to be a comedian. She sells tickets and goes on tour. I think she's a comedian. Anyway, she was vaping on the program. Can I play this YouTube video on this stream, or will YouTube get mad at me?
I think if you do a very short...
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Are you a nicotine addict?
No.
Okay, so that's the thing that upsets me at the beginning of this video really quickly is he sees her vaping and he just goes, "Oh, are you a nicotine addict?" I'm like, if I didn't think you could absolutely destroy me, I would try to punch you in the face, Joe Rogan. I would just say that for calling someone a nicotine addict. That upsets me to no end. That upsets me to no end.
Calling anybody an addict for anything is kind of...
Real. It's like fingernails on a chalkboard to me now. It's one of those things where...
Do we have to use stigmatizing language? Is that like a requirement? We're in 2022 now.
Yeah. It's one of those things that's easier and people are used to it.
Yeah.
I've heard people called addicts so many times that you just kind of start saying it at some point in your life. You know, like, "Oh, crack addict."
But it is derogatory. Like if you're a person that didn't know that, I'm here to tell you right now, it is offensive to a lot of people.
Completely.
And there are plenty of other, like a person who uses nicotine, right? Like that a substance use is what we call it now. Like, so do you use nicotine? Are you dependent on nicotine? Perhaps is another. But calling someone an addict basically reduces them down to just this one part.
Right.
They're an entire person with feelings and families and jobs and all this stuff, but you reduce them down to one thing, which is a substance that they perhaps use, and that completely dehumanizes them. That's why we don't like that language.
Completely. Addict is one of those terms that is out of the lexicon in 2022. It's like, I am not saying that word ever again. Just not saying it. I don't want to play this whole video.
Is that Juul with marijuana?
No, it's a Juul with nicotine.
Oh.
And I guess I am a nicotine addict sometimes.
How long have you been doing that?
Also, he said a Juul with marijuana, but that's not a thing, though.
It's because Joe Rogan doesn't know what he's talking about. Joe Rogan is one of those guys that seems smart until he starts talking about something that you're familiar with.
Right.
And then you go, "Oh, okay. Oh, okay, Joe Rogan. Oh, okay." My first, I don't know if I've mentioned this on this stream before, but my first experience with Joe Rogan was I have one of my heroes, Penn Jillette, from the magic comedy duo Penn and Teller. Penn is a huge hero to me, huge inspiration in my life. He had a podcast back in the day that was just the Penn Jillette Show. It was on CBS Radio. He had Joe Rogan on as a guest, and they argued for the full hour of the show of if we went to the moon or not. Joe Rogan believed with every fiber of his being that we couldn't have possibly left Earth's atmosphere.
But we did,
and that was my first experience with Joe Rogan. I went, "Oh, okay, this guy just doesn't get it." Okay. That's fine. It was Penn, and it was an astronomer was there with him talking about, well, yeah, we went to the moon and here's how we did it. And here's the technology and everything that Joe Rogan brought up. Like, well, what about the Van Allen belt and the radiation? And he's like, well, actually the Van Allen belt works this way because I've been studying it my whole life and blah, blah, blah. And this, that, and the other. Joe, remained unconvinced that we had gone to the moon. Joe, we didn't go to the moon, Rogan. That was my first experience. And he did say marijuana jewel, which doesn't make any sense either.
That's not a thing.
Wait till
You don't smoke cigarettes, do you?
I
That could roughen up that voice.
I know it's so
Be
bad.
careful.
Well, this isn't good for my voice.
Very
either.
careful.
No.
I think that's basically going to just kill your body.
I
I don't think
know.
it's going to mess up your voice. I think it's gonna
Yeah, no, I have
kill
rules.
your
Like, I'm going to put
neurons.
this down in like a week, and then I'll just be away. No more.
I think it's probably better. You know,
Better
there's a
than a
problem.
cigarette.
I think it's probably better.
It is.
I think it's probably better. And this is what he says. That's actually, it's a little bit of like a conspiratorial take on it, but it does make sense in my brain.
Demonized. When something gets demonized, I have to say, okay, are they demonizing this because it's actually bad, or are they demonizing this because it's a threat to profits for an established company that has a shit ton of money? One of the things I talked to Adam Curry. You know Adam Curry?
Okay. Yes.
You
I
know
love
he
No
is?
Agenda.
He's the best.
Yeah,
He's
I'm
the
a big
podfather.
fan. I really like him a lot.
If not for him, none of this would be
And
possible.
John C. DeVork. I like
Yeah, they're
when
great.
they have their little fights.
Well, they're super
Big
smart
fan.
guys,
Yeah.
and Adam is a good friend. I love him to death.
Awesome.
I love him to death.
Do you remember when Adam was on the show and he was vaping and talking about vaping? Did you ever see that? Adam Curry. Adam Curry was on the show. You remember Adam Curry from like back in the MTV days, right? Are you too young to remember Adam Curry? Oh
I also
my God.
just don't remember names, so it could be that too.
Okay,
You could
okay.
Show me a picture and I'll be like, oh yeah, that guy.
Oh, Adam Curry. Yeah. Adam Curry. Adam Curry, he was a MTV VJ for a very long time.
Okay.
Super smart guy, smoker for many, many years of his life. And he was vaping pretty prolifically on the Joe Rogan Experience when he was on the show. He was just vaping and vaping. It was like it looked like an Anakin, like boxy mod type of thing with like a sub tank is what he was vaping.
Okay.
And so inevitably Joe Rogan asks him about it and brings up all those deaths. He's like, what about those kids that died? And then Adam was like, no, actually it was blah, 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 and this and vitamin E acetate. And he explained all this to Joe already. Joe is well aware of EVALI, what caused EVALI, his really good friend Adam, who vapes and explained all this to him earlier, but he still draws a blank.
Like talking to him, he's so smart. When he was high on Austin, I was like, okay, maybe he's on something. But anyway, he talked to me about this, and he said a lot of this was based on a bunch of people who died, a group of kids that died from bad e-cigarettes that were actually marijuana cigarettes.
Oh, he smokes these things, right?
I do not know if he does that.
He smokes these things. Someday we're gonna remind everybody that you don't smoke an e-cigarettes.
Oh, all the terminology.
Marijuana e-cigarettes? Okay, that's fine.
I feel like
More?
he's
He may have in the past.
Remember.
I'm not
Yeah, Thobi. What is MTV? Yeah, I don't even know. I don't know. There's just three letters that we used to put together for some reason in the 90s.
exactly sure. He smokes a lot of weed, though. I'll tell you that.
Good for him.
That motherfucker could throw down. See if you can find what that story was, Jamie. There were e-cigarette, but it was e-weed. And so they were attributing it to vaping. They were saying all these kids died from vaping. And he's like, no. It was a small group of kids that died because there was a tainted product. And he said,
It wasn't all kids.
I don't
Wasn't
think
all
I'm
kids.
paraphrasing him. I think he was saying that it's one of those things, like we talked about earlier. It's either the outrage is because something is really, really dangerous, or the outrage is because something threatens profits
Right.
of something else. And I should just, out of the way, I'm 100% in favor of you buying cigarettes.
Oh, wow.
I smoke cigars. I think you should. I drink whiskey. It's not good for you.
When the mood strikes, I'll buy a pack, and then I'll go months without smoking. It's just
It's such a weird. Okay, I'm not trying to just slam on Joe Rogan. That's such a weird thing to say coming out of Joe Rogan because he's so like healthy body, healthy mind. I take brain pills. I want to have optimal cognition, optimal body experience. But you should definitely smoke cigarettes and smoke cigars and drink whiskey and do things that are really bad for you. Just want to point out some hypocrisy. That's fine.
I mean, maybe he's like, be healthy, but freedom. I don't know. I
But
mean,
be
I
health-
support
look.
people's right to drink whiskey and smoke cigars and
Of course.
whatever, too. So.
Of course. Of course.
it's like a thing about something. It grounds me, I think. But
Yeah.
but with
But
per
I
your
think
point,
he
like,
was saying that we have this idea that it's really bad to vape,
Right,
and
right.
it might not exactly be true.
Okay, so
It definitely might not exactly be true. Yes, good job, Joe Rogan.
it definitely might not be true.
You're like inching closer.
And then he has, I'm going to kind of skip this because all they do is look at the CDC website and he's trying to figure out what all this means. He's like,
Volley.
he doesn't even say EVALI. He says EVALI and vitamin E acetate.
Fluid samples tested by CDC.
He's like, I didn't know that this was going to be so much science stuff. I was just expecting like an article,
article.
like an article I could read.
Welcome to the CDC.
Yeah, welcome to this. welcome to
You and everyone else, Joe Rogan.
Right.
It was a national issue.
So is this the story of the? Okay, so it says at the top when you scroll up, it says outbreak of lung injury associated with the use of e-cigarette or vaping products. I guess I'm looking for like a dumb story, and this is like a page of
But you know
the
what?
government
Like
CDC site.
the thing is, though, like
I mean,
it's
yeah.
really difficult to
Welcome to the
decide
club.
what's real. Like, you know, you hear a story.
We're
you see
all
a
just
story
looking for a
on the
dumb
internet.
story to
Yeah.
tell us
And
what the
maybe
hell's
it's true, maybe it's
going
not.
on.
Like I don't. It's like you said. It's major commerce.
Look at this, though. The mysterious vaping illness that's becoming an epidemic. A surge of severe lung ailments has baffled doctors and public health experts. Okay, here's one thing I do know. I do know of a family who had a young son who was a teenager who died, and they think it has a connection to vaping.
Oh,
Got very
really?
sick. And he had some sort of a lung issue.
Ugh.
And I got to imagine that if you're doing it all day long,
Yeah.
like a lot of these kids are, they're doing it.
And this is where he just wildly
Falls off.
speculates, ignores everything he read, ignores everything that Adam told him about his switching from smoking to vaping, and just starts postulating about, well, I think that if you're inhaling something, that's bad for you. He's like, if you're inhaling all this mist, that can't be good for you. If you're just doing it day after day after day, that's not going to be good for you.
You can give a kid something where you give them, which is nicotine is essentially, is it listed as a stimulant?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it a stimulant? Yes. Is that what they call
Yeah,
it?
and it makes you feel so good.
Nicotine gives you the greatest head rush. I love a
Jamie, do you
cigar.
still smoke? Good for you.
I was going to add into this, which I don't know. I know that from when this happened, whoever was getting them, or I know it was a national thing, so lots of people that were getting the actual cartridges that they were putting the juice or the oil or what have you in.
Yeah, see, they don't know.
Those were where the issue started, I think.
The
Like,
juice or the
cartridges
oil?
themselves were bad.
Yes, I think they said they were like contaminated or something. There was something wrong with them, right?
Right, and that's why I remember they were saying they were coming from China, or that's why I don't know.
Well, it's like everything
normal
else.
from
You,
China, but-
if it was regulated, like if you could only get a version of it where there was some sort of okay, here, potential culprits in mystery lung illness, black market vaping products. So this is some lung
Oh, and they're on
illnesses. Is that what it is? Is that what they're saying?
it got so confused because it just started popping up. They're called popcorn lung and all sorts of weird.
Listen to
No,
how
that's
listen.
not a
I know,
thing.
but listen, like just listen to how confused all three of them are. She vapes actively. He's talked about vaping at least a dozen times, talked to other vapors about vaping at least a dozen times. Jamie is his producer, who's basically supposed to be the fact checker of the show, and none of them know because of CDC's terrible messaging about all that EVALI was.
And several articles they've pulled up, they
And
still can't
several
figure it
articles.
out.
Like, yeah, they still are all confused. They're all confused. And this clip basically ends. I'm not even going to play the whole clip. The clip basically ends with them saying, and maybe it's better. Maybe it's better than smoking. Maybe it's better than smoking. Nothing. Joe Rogan has a huge platform. Good God. You can't be bothered to remember when your good friend Adam was on and told you all about vaping and EVALI. That's crazy. Anyway, that just upsets me. Maybe someday Joe Rogan will get it correct about vaping, but that might not even matter.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't watch him, so
That might not even matter. Yeah, I like if I watch or listen to Joe Rogan, it's because I'm interested in the guest he has on.
yeah.
I mean, 10 times out of 10, like I listened to the Macaulay Culkin episode from years ago. It was really
Okay.
good. I listened to, when Penn was on, I listened to that. It was really good. When he has guests that I give a shit about on, they'll usually have a good conversation. But when it's Joe Rogan trying to disseminate scientific information, nope. Hard pass, Joe. Hard pass. Hard pass. Joe Rogan is a comedian. Yep. Going to him for the news is like asking a clown for a flower, because clowns have the squirty flowers,
Oh,
right? Is that what you mean,
right.
Jake Scrapwood? I got you. I hear you there. Jake Scrapwood. So that's been forced into my space. Literally everybody's been tweeting and emailing me this, like, you got to watch this Joe Rogan thing. You got to watch this Joe Rogan thing. I would argue that the episode he did with Adam Curry was much better and had much better information about vaping on it, because Adam Curry was actually knowledgeable. He was a vapor. He was a vape user. He was a cigarette smoker, and now he's a vapor, and he's been vaping forever, whatever X amount of years. He was very knowledgeable. None of that stuck in Joe's head. Literally none of it. From his really good friend, Adam. Anyway, I just, that upsets me to no end. Look, maybe someday Joe Rogan will get it right. I would like to think that Joe Rogan would get it right, but by then his credibility might be so shot that it won't matter if he gets it right.
Yeah, I mean, I have all kinds of thoughts, but I'm not trying to start some kind of war in the chat. So,
Are people defending Joe Rogan?
I don't know. I mean,
Joe should
I know
stick
that
to
there's
his
people that like him, and
TV show.
he's had some guests on that I think are full of it. So, yeah.
He's had so many guests that were full of it. Too many guests that were full of it. Including, okay, well, I'm not going to get into that, but he's had some guests that, yeah, as Danielle said, pretty full of it. And like I said, Joe Rogan seems like a smart guy until he starts talking about something that you're familiar with. Mm-hmm. And then it's like all logic goes out the window. It's like, whoa, you couldn't be more wrong. You couldn't be more incorrect about that. Oh, Joe Rogan. So inevitably, someone else is going to go on the Joe Rogan show and vape, and then I'll get another clip. There'll be yet another
Right.
Joe Rogan clip of him floating
About
around out
e-weed
there.
and people dying. So,
About,
you know.
yeah, e-weed. Is that a marijuana jewel? No, because that doesn't exist, Joe
That doesn't
Rogan.
exist.
That's not a
That's
product on the market that has ever existed. Weed jewel. Okay. Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, not for me.
Not for me. Don't listen to Joe Rogan about vaping. I think those things are probably going to kill you. What? Just,
I mean, I guess you can think whatever you want, bruh.
I guess. Let's move on to something a little bit more Califf oriented.
Oh, look at him right
look
there.
at
in
that.
the
Yeah,
middle.
he's just chilling. Robert Califf right in the middle. So this is our potential future new FDA commissioner that we know very, very, very little about. I mean, not very little about, just we know very little about where he stands with vaping or tobacco,
Right.
because the only thing we have, and correct me if I'm wrong, the only thing he's ever said was in that one paper that came out during EVALI,
Right.
where he said flavors should be banned because of these lung injuries.
As far as I'm aware, yeah, that's the most. I don't recall if it was brought up in his hearing, which was like what, last month or something. I don't know. I think somebody brought it up, but from what I remember, I thought they said there wasn't a lot of talking about it. I'm not 100% sure.
Apparently, there was very little talking about it. They say the initial hearing was mostly, obviously, what's going on bigger in the world right now than vaping. Like
Right.
pandemic, COVID-19. So his first initial hearing was more or less just questions about how would you streamline COVID treatments and tackle misinformation on social media regarding COVID. And, you know, they mentioned the overdose opioid sort of fentanyl. I hate to use the word epidemic, but the fact that lots of people are dying because of a bad drug supply of illicit fentanyl and things like this. And so he talked about that. Alex Norcia writes in Filter magazine, he says, anybody hoping for a clear indication of how Callif would position the FDA around tobacco harm reduction was disappointed, and observers will have to pick through limited past indications of his potential future impact in the field. Alex Norcia talks about how FDA has not had a permanent head since Biden's been president. We've only had acting commissioner Janet Woodcock, who was literally just an FDA employee since the 80s. He says she had to bear the brunt of the recent criticisms leveled at the agency. It says under her stewardship, the FDA has controversially approved a new Alzheimer's drug, struggled to communicate the efficacy of COVID-19 booster shots for adults and children, watched overdose rates hit record highs, and bungled an already confusing procedure for companies to receive authorization to sell e-cigarettes. It says in June, congressional Democrats criticized Woodcock for failing to take action on manufacturers, though evidence would later show that youth vaping rates, their primary concern, has substantially decreased. That's another thing, too, that Congress is really still stuck on youth vaping, despite the youth vaping numbers dropping really significantly over the last few years.
Yeah, it's true.
Super true.
I wish you could hand me your sweater because I'm cold.
Are you cold? You want a flannel? Here, I'll send you a Dixon.
Could just pass it across the here?
Just, oh yeah.
Thank you.
We'll go like this way.
Everybody's like, it looks like we're in the same, but we're not.
We're not. We're
unfortunately.
definitely not.
It would be great if I could grab that. But
Yeah, it would be awesome. Real IRL podcast stream. That would be great.
yeah, right. That would be so much fun.
We should be just like Joe Rogan.
I mean,
Just like
we get
Joe
a
Rogan.
light up sign and everything.
Yeah, I could get a little neon sign that says the GrimmGreen experience.
Yeah. I mean, I'd go. I don't know about you guys.
You should. I would go. I would go too. Alex goes on here to say, largely absent from the hours-long testimony was how the incoming head of FDA, if confirmed, so he's not confirmed yet. I thought he was.
Right. He had a hearing, but I don't know. Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure there hasn't been the actual vote. I think there's just been the hearing where they get to ask questions.
Okay.
I think.
If confirmed, would handle tobacco harm reduction and the pre-market tobacco application process that is bound to put most small and medium-sized vape shops and owners and manufacturers out of business. That erroneous bureaucracy required companies to file extensive paperwork and costly research for every product they wish to remain on the marketplace by last September. Since the fall, the FDA has rejected millions of applications on the basis that they would not be appropriate for the protection of public health, a threshold that has come to be understood as helping smokers switch to safer alternatives without introducing a new generation to nicotine. That's like the FDA benchmark. That's what appropriate for the protection of public health means.
Right.
Which that's not really what the appropriate for the protection of public health means. It should be stop the harm from smoking now for every adult.
Right.
Right?
And everyone.
And
go ahead and
every
say, stop the harm of
smoking
for everyone.
For every person that smokes cigarettes, whether you're underage, whether you're overage.
You should be helped too.
You should be helped too. And that can start literally right now.
Yep.
But FDA has this like, oh, no, it has to be helpful to adults, but it can't be,
if the kids even look sideways at it, it's out.
It's out. That's their rigid scientific threshold that they have to get over. Rigid.
And even if it's a fad that appears to be wearing off, still, no, we're just going to keep referencing old data from when it was popular, and we're going to ignore the fact that they're getting less interested in it now. Just organically, they're just like bored of it. But we're going to keep talking about that 2019 data.
Yeah, and that is, I've seen this too. You've probably seen it across Twitter where, some accounts will make big sweeping statements like that, and their data ends in 2019.
Yeah.
And you go, well, there's been 2 years of data since then.
Right. Or they hyper focus on like, of the kids that said they vaped,
right,
25% of them are doing it every day.
Right.
While that is factually true, you have no idea what number of kids you're talking about. It's a percentage of a percentage.
Yes.
And it's actually very, very low, especially now.
It's very, very low. And percentages of percentages. Man, we've talked about percentages of percentages so many times on this.
It's their favorite thing in the world because they can run around and say 25% and no one knows 25% of what? Of what?
Of what?
Yeah.
Oh, you don't know?
People just assume it's of all kids.
Yeah, of 100%.
So many people incorrectly saying that because of FDA and CDC's messaging. So obviously, that's what okay, I shouldn't assign intent to people because I don't know what's in someone else's head.
Sure.
But if that wasn't their goal, they probably should have seen that coming. And if that was their goal, they achieved it because a bunch of people were going around saying 1/4 of kids are vaping every day.
Every day.
That's not true.
Completely not true. And it's one of those things where it just keeps getting repeated and repeated and repeated, and you go, "Oh, that's not true. No, that's not true. Wait, why are you guys wait. Oh, okay."
And they've left, and
all right.
they're
and
out,
left.
and they're saying it, and that's the end of it.
And you're still standing there
That's
going,
how misinformation happens.
It's not true. Alex goes on and says, nonetheless, the hearing featured just a single question related to tobacco control. Senator Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin asked Callif how he would tackle synthetic nicotine. In the wake of so many PMTA denials, several vape manufacturers have announced that they'll be switching to synthetic nicotine. That is, nicotine made in a lab and not derived from tobacco. It falls short of the regulatory loophole. The FDA remit defines a tobacco product as anything made or derived from tobacco, which technically precludes synthetic nicotine. I mean, look, that makes sense in my head. In his response, Callif emphasized the importance of installing the right person to replace Mitch Zeller, the current director of the FDA Center for Tobacco Products, who is retiring soon. And pledged to close this loophole so that we make sure that we understand the risks and benefits and particularly deal with the issues in children. Dumb. I mean, that's dumb, and that just makes me mad, Robert Califf.
It sounds like it could be lip service for all we know. I mean, he's just saying what they say. You know what I mean? I don't know. Or he's awful. We'll see.
Or he's awful. We have no idea.
No.
But it says that might be out of his hands. Though the FDA could regulate synthetic nicotine as any other drug, the agency will likely have to wait until Congress tweaks the definition to allow it to be regulated as a tobacco product.
Right. That's true.
So in this case, in the case of synthetic nicotine, slow government bureaucracy might be in the favor of synthetic nicotine.
Unless Congress, is like, whoop, we'll take care of this right quick. Here we go. Like
does Congress do that? Have they ever done that?
I mean, we've seen them mobilize on anti-vaping stuff. Like, if there's one thing that can get them moving, it seems to be that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I'm just
Maybe,
hoping that they
not.
just go as slow as normal,
I mean,
I'm hoping
it doesn't get voted on for a few years.
Right.
One of those kinds of.
Yeah, it doesn't get voted on till like 2024, and even then it's like, well, after this we have to have an open comment period for another 6 months, and then we're going to write up the final deeming draft of this synthetic nicotine, and by then it's 2050, and nobody, everybody's already quit smoking, and we're like, Congress, what are you even doing?
What are you talking about?
What are you even doing?
What are you doing?
Califf's answer to Senator Baldwin's limited question, even if it included intriguing reference to the benefits of synthetic nicotine, provides few clues of how he might handle the future of the vape industry at a time when COVID will continue to occupy legislators' attention over other public health concerns. Some, listen to this, some see promise in Califf's experience and credentials. Who is this some? He's the right person for the role at this time. Cliff Douglas, the director of the University of Michigan's Tobacco Research Network and the American Cancer Society's former vice president for tobacco control, told Filter. He appears to understand the big issues around tobacco and alternative nicotine products, and he has the intellectual heft and experience to be able to explain that. While it is important to minimize youth uptake of any nicotine product, they'll continue to address that assertively. The much more immediate and larger problem stems from the tens of millions of adults who smoke. Thank you, Cliff Douglas, for being so rational. Cliff Douglas seems to have at least some sense of optimism for Robert Califf, saying he has the intellectual heft and experience.
I wish I could share that, but I am not so optimistic. I am very jaded.
Either. I am so jaded, and that's not because I don't think that Cliff's correct. It's because we've just been hurt too many times, you guys.
Just because someone's smart doesn't mean they're good on this issue. Like, those two things are not mutually, always
not
together,
mutually
right?
exclusive. Every time, I can't even tell you how many times I've been disappointed by politicians, tobacco controllers. It's like, oh, this bill, it might not pass. Oh, it might not pass. Ah, fuck, it passed. You go, ah, fuck. Oh, all these PMTAs, FDA is going to have to approve some, right? No, just none by the millions of applications you're just denying? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, I'm a little bit jaded. I'm a little bit cynical.
Yeah.
I wish I shared Cliff Douglas's optimism. I think Cliff Douglas I can't think of a way to say this in a nice way, but it seems like I'm not going to call Cliff Douglas naive, but that statement saying, I believe that Callif will do the right thing and he's smart enough to be able to do it, and I'm going to put my faith in that. Me, as a veteran in the vape industry, I just go, well, that seems real naive because he's just going to be another anti-vaping prohibitionist. Don't you, Cliff Douglas?
I mean,
you can hope all you want.
Right. Cliff, I think, tends to still have these sort of rose-colored glasses for
Yep.
a lot of his tobacco control people. And he's from that world, so we get
Yep.
it. You know what I mean? You're not going to, burn bridges with all your co-workers and colleagues and friends. And so I get it. But we have sort of a different view of some of these things. So that's
a very
just the way
slightly
that it
different
is.
view. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, Cliff Douglas is still a tobacco controller, ex-tobacco controller. So he has...
Yeah.
I mean, he has that tobacco control mindset. He doesn't have the consumer harm reduction.
Right. And he's more woke than most of them on this issue.
Yes, he is.
But that is still, where he comes from, his perspective. So
Yeah, and that matters. So
I would say he's got rose-colored glasses. Might be a nicer way of
better than
putting
saying
it.
naivety. Okay.
I mean, yeah.
I don't wanna call the man
I agree
naive.
with you that it may be possibly a little naive, but he's an optimist. He's hoping for the best. I very much hope that he is right.
Yeah.
I feel like he probably won't be, but I really hope he is.
How spectacular would that be? I mean, I'm not even
I would
just
love
trying
to be wrong here. I would love it.
It would make
so
my
hard.
day. It would make my
Yeah.
year to be wrong
Yeah.
about this. It would make my life to be wrong about
Yes.
this.
Yes.
If Robert Califf gets up there and says, continuum of risk, nicotine products, very low nicotine cigarettes combined with an aggressive, safer nicotine product, the Scott Gottlieb, right? The Scott Gottlieb plan. If he stuck with the Scott Gottlieb plan, I would be blown away. I would be dancing in the streets. I'd be celebrating.
Yeah.
I'd be shooting off fireworks. In contrast, Jim McDonald, a journalist for Vaping 360, subscribed the senator's lack of tobacco control questions to the idea that they might be confident based on Califf's previous statements that the nominee will be a reliable enemy of vaping and recreational nicotine use. Jim McDonald says he's going to be a hardline prohibitionist who would jeopardize tobacco harm reduction.
I mean, that's kind of where
I land too on this, Jim McDonald.
I mean, hope for the best, plan for the worst, though.
Yeah. When
I'm not even really hoping. I'm just planning
yeah. It's
for
like
the
when you
worst.
plan for the worst, you can't hope for the best and plan for the worst, because by planning for the worst, you're just assuming that what you want to happen isn't going to happen. Greg Connolly, the president of the American Vaping Association, also cited some evidence that points in this direction. Callif has shown a heavy bias towards pharmaceutical interventions for smokers, which is understandable for someone nominated to become FDA commissioner, Connolly told Filter. His past comments on vaping do not inspire much confidence in his willingness to fairly examine the evidence on tobacco harm reduction. Yes, I tend to fall there with Greg Connolly. And here he talks about what are those past comments? They came from an op-ed piece published in the Association of the American Medical Colleges website, in which Callif argued flavors in vaping products should be banned immediately, and the campaign about the dangers of unregulated vaping should be dramatically increased. That and surveillance should be increased to identify individuals and groups selling products to minors. He also seemed to support a prescription-only model, much like what Australia has adopted.
No, thank you.
Terrible idea. That's three really bad ideas. Three really bad ideas and one really good idea. Stop selling products to minors. Like, punish the people selling products to minors. That's a no-brainer.
Yep.
Prescription only?
No.
No. Hard no. hard no, hard pass. At a time when millions of Americans are successfully using vaping to quit smoking cigarettes, Amanda Wheeler, the president of the American Vapor Manufacturers Association, told Filter, Robert Califf's backward-thinking prohibitionist views about reducing smoking are badly out of sync with what the public wants and deserves from the FDA. Ultimately, at the end of the day, Cliff Douglas, the tobacco controller, is the only one who appears to be optimistic about Robert Califf being nominated as the head of the FDA, and journalist Jim McDonald and president of the American Vapor Manufacturers Association and president of the American Vaping Association and the host and co-host of the TBN stream on the GrimmGreen channel all sort of feel the same way, that this is just going to be more of the same prohibition talk.
Yep.
From Robert Califf. And
I mean,
God, I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, one thing that Califf said is correct. A lot of this is going to depend on who takes Zeller's place, right?
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, because while the FDA commissioner is super important, right? Realistically, he's got like a lot of shit to do. The FDA's big. There's more than just tobacco going on in there. So who he puts in charge of the Center for Tobacco Products he's right, is actually going to be very important. And while Califf can tell that person, like, I want you to do this, I don't know how the inner workings of the FDA go, but
nope.
Whoever is going to take Zeller's place is going to be the one making most of these decisions. So
I saw something that sparked a memory in my brain about... Did you see this tweet? I think I bookmarked it. Oh, no, this isn't. So this is for someone who's going to serve on the Tobacco Products Scientific Advisory Committee to the
TPSAC?
FDA. Yeah, TPSAC.
Yep.
This professor from VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University.
Okay.
This professor lady from Virginia Commonwealth University, I can't pronounce her name, Mignonne, PhD, is an associate professor and the chair of the Department of African American Studies in the Virginia Commonwealth University College of Humanities and Sciences. She's been appointed to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration's Tobacco Products Scientific Advisory Committee, which reviews and evaluates safety, dependence, and health issues relating to tobacco products and provides appropriate advice, information, and recommendation to the Commissioner of Food and Drugs. So this is like an FDA Commissioner advisor?
No, so TPSAC is a panel of
explain
scientists and experts, and they make recommendations on authorizations. Now, these recommendations are not binding. FDA can completely ignore them. It's just a group of people that give their opinion. A lot of times the conversation they have can be very interesting, but their recommendations are non-binding. So, I mean, do with that what you would like. But there are committees like that and advisory committees for other things related to FDA, for medical device things, drug approvals. And I believe all of these committees, it's just like FDA being like, so what do you smart people think? Okay, here's what we're going to do. And sometimes they agree and sometimes they don't.
I see. So it's really like a sounding board.
I would say that that's a fairly accurate, yeah. And there's actually already, if I recall, there's some pretty cool people on the TPSAC committee. Not all of them hate vaping. There are some people that are, legit on there.
Yeah.
But again, they're non-binding, recommendations. So FDA can ignore them or not.
That must be nice. You have a big panel that you pay money to exist, to do research and hard work, and then you're like, well, what do you guys think? Okay, never mind. We're going to do this.
I mean, I think they do listen. Hopefully they listen and think about it, but ultimately what they decide is what they decide. But it's like, what do you guys think? Okay.
Okay, this is kind of interesting. It says she has published over 40 manuscripts in tobacco prevention and control research and tobacco regulatory sciences. She is a co-investigator and lead investigator on the VCU Center for the Study of Tobacco Products, where she develops innovative methods to monitor emerging tobacco products on the market and use the data to inform tobacco regulation. As Director of Social Justice in Research at the Center for Research, Health and Social Justice, Guy leads the development and training of scientists and community members in anti-racist methods to conduct cancer prevention research in Black communities. She's also a member of the Massey Cancer Prevention Center Prevention Control Group at VCU. So she has some serious credentials. As far
they
as
all do. You don't get to be at putts on TPSAC.
Right,
you have
right,
to have,
yeah.
Some legit,
I guess you don't get to be a
credentials.
putz. I like that term, putz. I'm going to use that.
As far as I'm aware, everybody
You
on
don't get
the
to be a
TPSAC committee
putz.
is pretty credentialed.
Okay, so that's not directly related to Mitch Zeller. That's more of a TPSAC.
Yeah, that's a
TPSAC
committee
situation. That's a committee thing. Okay. Well, that was the only thing I had seen recently about FDA, and then. I guess ultimately all we can do with Callif is just wait and see.
Just have to wait.
He doesn't have a Twitter. Can we email this man? Can we how do we start engaging with Robert Califf right away, right out of the gate? I mean, I don't want to be annoying, but I'd like him to know that we're here and we're listening and we're watching and we want to be a part of the conversation.
Yeah, at this point, technically he's still a regular citizen.
That's right.
He's not actually,
it's not confirmed.
So he's not confirmed. I think once he's confirmed, he will take over the FDA commissioner Twitter, right? Isn't that a thing? FDA commissioner?
FDA commissioner.
Gottlieb had an official Twitter, right? When he was I think there's a FDA Twitter.
There is.
And we'll be able to tweet there. But at the moment, if he does not have a personal Twitter, there's not a whole lot we can do. I mean, he's all, I think, personal things right now. So,
yeah.
Personally, for me, I would like to wait until he is confirmed, and then because also, what if he's not? I mean,
that's a good question. That's just as legitimate a question as if he is, because there's a chance he could not be as well.
Right. And if you want to, do something, just tweet at regular FDA, right? Tweet it like normal FDA.
Yeah.
I'm sure once the commissioner is picked, that person gets briefed, I would imagine, on social media interactions. So
sure,
he'd probably hear about it, I would think, if you just tweet at regular FDA.
Yes. Politely, respectfully, tweet at FDA. Don't use names. Don't yell. There's a method to this. We're living in a society, and people don't win me over by just yelling at me. No. So why would anybody want to be won over by being yelled at?
Yeah, don't be a Karen on Twitter, please. Don't be a Karen on Twitter. Don't do that.
Please.
Karens never win, you guys. So don't even look like a Karen.
Yeah, don't even ask to see the manager.
Nope, don't do that.
I'd like to talk to Robert Califf, please. Just call the FDA. I'm going to need to talk to Robert Califf.
I'm going to need to speak to the commissioner.
I'm going to talk to the commissioner right now.
Don't touch me. Don't touch me.
She just starts
Get
filming.
me the commissioner.
Okay. All right,
I'll
Califf.
call corporate.
Well, I'm sure you'll be back on this stream at one point or another, if and when you get confirmed, and if and when. And honestly, there's a big part of me that's like, I just want to give the man some space, and be like, look, I know you got COVID and all this nonsense going on. I know you're dealing with the CDC and streamlining these processes. You have a lot going on. Yeah. But when you get to vaping, when you get there, no rush. When you get there, you have a lot of people to talk to.
Yeah.
You have so many people to talk to. Yeah. Ideally, that's how it would go. And he'd go, oh, thank you. Thank you so much for being so patient. Because you did that? Yes, vaping.
I mean,
good.
That would be super.
Right?
That would be super.
That would be spectacular.
I would love that.
Wishful thinking. Yeah. Wishful thinking. I wanted to mention this before we get to Matt, since we're already about an hour in, but there's been a new study recently that the headline, this is from Filter Mag, when smokers with no plans to quit try vaping, they often quit anyway.
This
is a phenomenon
Oh, yeah, accidental quitting.
Accidental quitting. Like
we've talked about it for years.
So many accidental quitters. I couldn't even tell you how many emails I get of people who are like, I didn't want to quit. I just bought a vape and now I need a juice recommendation because I don't smoke cigarettes anymore. It's like, congratulations, you accidentally quit. This is this is like a thing. Like within vaping, we're well aware of the accidental quitter. Yep. And now there's some actual science behind it. I'm going to post 2 links in the description. One is to Filter Magazine and Alex Norsha. And this is the Verge that I'm going to be reading just because it's a little bit shorter. Alex gets a little bit wordy sometimes, you know. But we love Alex. I love Alex. He does get a little bit wordy. Not like Michelle Minton wordy.
Oh, she's the wordy queen.
She is the wordy queen, but it's worth it. Any Michelle Minton piece
always
that's always worth it. Always worth it.
But they do write small novellas. They do. And we value all the words, but get a snack and tuck in.
Yeah, get a snack, tuck in. You'll need pee breaks. It's like a whole thing.
Yeah. Little novellas. It's okay.
But according to The Verge, it says adult smokers who say they don't plan on quit smoking but who start using e-cigarettes are more likely to quit than those who don't start vaping, according to a new study. Well, holy shit. You mean to tell me? Has anybody ever in the history of NRTs quit smoking accidentally with like gum?
No.
I don't think I've ever heard of anything like that happening.
Because you wouldn't pick that crap up unless you
wanted to quit smoking, right? Unless you wanted to. According to this new study, people who say they are not trying to quit often aren't included in studies on the potential benefits of e-cigarettes for adult smokers, and the new data shows that this group should be considered during this type of analysis. Yeah, absolutely. In this new study, which I'll be posting a link to this and the study, published in the JAMA Open Network, researchers evaluated data from the Population Assessment of Tobacco and Health PATH study.
That survey. Mm-hmm.
I'm not. Can you explain the PATH a little bit better than I can?
I don't know a ton about it, but it is used a lot. It's like a giant database. I don't know if it's CDC or who exactly runs it, but it's a huge data set. I know that. So do you remember Stanton Glance's crazy heart attack stuff?
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, he used PATH data also. So it's like a huge data set that people can just like access and then run, look at things on.
Patterns, models, and things like that.
I know you have to be, it's a confidential data set. So you have to be like a researcher to get access to it. I know like the bare minimum about it, but that's what I know.
It's more than me.
It's a huge thing. It has a ton of data. I can't remember who maintains it. It's probably somebody at the government or some big agency. I'm not sure. But a lot of researchers use it, and it's confidential. But that Dr. Rodu had to get access to it. Or Radu, excuse me. Dr. Brad had to get like access to it in order to like double check Stanton's stuff, and then he was able to like point out it's a whole thing. But yeah, it's a fancy data set. How about that?
Yeah, fancy data set. It says here it's run by the NIH and the FDA.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Run by the NIH. So that's kind of a big deal if it's run by the National Institutes of Health and the Food and Drug Administration. It says participants were interviewed about their tobacco use 4 times between 2014 and 2019.
They do multiple waves.
Multiple waves, waves. That's something that Alex touched on that this article doesn't, but yes, waves. It says, of the study group, 1,600 people said in initial interviews that they didn't use e-cigarettes and didn't plan to ever quit smoking cigarettes. Hi, that was me. I had no intention of quitting smoking cigarettes. I liked smoking cigarettes. I paused for a number of years, and as soon as I could smoke again, I was smoking again. I liked smoking cigarettes and had no real intention of quitting.
I did too.
Yeah. It says, one study group. Okay. By the next set of interviews, around 6% of that group had stopped smoking traditional cigarettes. Participants who'd started using e-cigarettes daily during that time were much more likely to be in that 6% than participants who hadn't. 28% of the group using e-cigarettes had stopped smoking cigarettes compared to just under 6% of the group not using e-cigarettes. So that's 28% of a group that had no intention of quitting cigarettes that accidentally quit smoking as soon as they started vaping. Mm-hmm. The relationship might be because smokers who start using e-cigarettes tend to shift toward planning to quit smoking, the authors suggest. Sure. A pattern seen in previous research from the PATH study and in other experiments. The new analysis didn't untangle whether people's decisions to quit came after they started smoking e-cigarettes, so it can't pinpoint the cause of this change. The switch, though, is likely beneficial. Some research shows e-cigarettes are less harmful than traditional cigarettes, even if they're not completely harmless. Some research shows that. Mm-hmm. Mountains. They could change some to mountains. Tons. Yeah, tons, loads of research shows that e-cigarettes are less harmful than traditional cigarettes.
I like loads.
Has got to be a better way to say that. The study was released while the FDA is still reviewing some e-cigarette related products, including those made by Juul. The agency has blown past its September deadline to evaluate applications from e-cigarette companies. After a year-long period without enforcement, companies now need authorization before they can market their products. The only e-cigarette the FDA has authorized so far are tobacco-flavored e-cigarettes from the R.J. Reynolds Vapor Company. At the end of December, it had rejected 260 applications. I think it's more than 260 applications, wasn't it?
That might be the number. We usually look at it in terms of SKUs because one application can have a shit ton of SKUs.
Okay.
So I know we talk about like products, but the actual number of applications, that might be correct. I don't know. We don't usually track it that way.
Well, 260 applications. The FDA says its focus is on figuring out whether a vaping or e-cigarette product has benefits to adult smokers that outweigh the risks to kids and teenagers. I hate that.
I know.
I hate the crap out of that.
What risks?
What risks? What risk is it? What risks?
Like
what
demonstrate
risk?
them. Demonstrate harm for me, please. I'll wait.
Oh, wait, but brain poison, Danielle. No. Nicotine's a brain. No.
Just because you
toxic.
say words doesn't make them real.
Popcorn lung, though.
No.
Now look.
You could put words together, but they don't mean anything. Try again. I only talk to people like this in my head, you guys. I'm much nicer on Twitter.
Nope. You can.
Just because you say words doesn't mean
they're true. Then outweigh the risk to kids and teenagers who started vaping in large numbers in 2018 and tend to be attracted to flavored products. The new research indicates that smokers who say they don't plan to quit should be included in those risk-benefit calculations, the study authors note. Yes, I definitely agree with that. Mm-hmm. I like the idea. So they're completely excluding people who didn't. I don't know. I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around this. They're not including these people as adults that quit smoking with vaping because they didn't intend to.
I think when most people use the PATH data, what they'll do is go in and say, okay, which of these people were actually trying to quit smoking? And then they like it's one of the first things they narrow down.
Okay.
And they're not really looking at people who weren't interested because I don't know, that's just what it kind of makes sense if you think about it. And then that's also if you don't realize that accidental quitting is a real phenomenon that happens.
Very real.
Right? Like the researchers who have zero experience with vaping are probably like, oh, people pick this up and they're like trying to quit, right? Like, well, actually, no.
Yeah,
by the way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's something that's overlooked because they're not, like you said, that's not really a thing with NRT and other things. So they're just not used to looking at something like a consumer product that could be picked up for a variety of different reasons. And that, it's not what they're used to.
Could be picked up because you ran out of cigarettes and you said, I'm going to try this vaping thing.
Could be
maybe
picked up
accidentally
because your friend had one.
Yeah.
Could be, you know.
Could be picked up because you dislike the taste of Winston's now. And maybe you want something that's, watermelon ice. That seems to be the popular one. I just threw that out there. So yeah, let's include people that don't have an intention to quit smoking, because I guess you're right. If you're buying an NRT, that shows
Intention,
right? Like
right.
when I was a smoker, I didn't think I should buy some nicotine gum just for fun.
It's fun.
Right. Because yeah.
I want to blow bubbles.
Yeah,
Like,
nobody.
No,
yeah,
you don't
no.
do that with nicotine gum.
Yeah, you don't. You don't do that with nicotine.
Just in
gum.
case you didn't know, it doesn't work that way.
Definitely
You mostly
doesn't.
just park it. It's not even really that gummy. It's you break it and then you park it. But anyway,
You break it. Whoops. You break it and then you park it. I wanted to look at the actual study, just because we can, and we're here. Association of e-cigarette use with discontinuation of cigarette smoking among adult smokers who are initially never planning to quit. Wow, that's a good.
mouthful.
That is a mouthful of a title.
those titles are always.
Is e-cigarette use? Yeah, these findings call for a consideration of smokers who are not planning to quit while evaluating the risk-benefit potential of e-cigarettes for smoking cessation in the population. See, I feel like that can only be a good thing.
Yeah.
Is this going to...
It's just more evidence, basically.
Right.
It's just saying, look, you're not looking at another thing, and that's even more adults. Like,
But
there's
is it-
even more than what you realized.
Is it going to force FDA, or I don't know if force is the right word, but yeah, I guess
Convince them
convince or
that-
force the FDA to broaden their definition of what is appropriate for the protection of public health?
That by itself, no, it's not going to. There's the children's thing is a mountain that we somehow have to overcome. I think that that's going to take a while. I think that people have to calm the hell down and be more realistic, which they are not in the mood to be doing right now in general in the world. About
in
all
general.
the things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not. Do I think this can single-handedly change the tides? No, I do not think that. But it is good, and it is
good.
something that people need to recognize. And it's more evidence that look how cool that these products are. They are doing things you didn't even know they could do.
Yeah,
Look at
exactly. They're being successful just on their own, just with
With people who didn't even want to do it.
all they have to do is exist,
Right.
and they work.
Right,
And people will
exactly.
go, oh, what's this? Oh, shit, it worked. I don't quit smoking. I
That
don't
should
smoke
be a
anymore.
tobacco controller's dream, right? We don't
Right.
even have to convince them to
Yeah.
quit. They just pick it up and then it happens magically.
Yeah.
Everyone should be on board with that.
We don't have
you
to
don't even
berate
have to
them.
convince them that
Yeah.
smoking's bad.
You don't have to berate them. You don't
Nope.
have to stigmatize them.
Nope.
You don't have to,
It's like
you don't have to
autopilot
fear
for
them.
quitting.
Yeah, it is. It seriously is.
They should love it.
But nicotine. Nicotine.
The children's.
The children and the nicotines.
Yeah.
The children and the nicotines. Well, I would, real quickly, I think I saw a super chat come in. Tim J.
Oh,
there
yeah.
in with the super chat. I appreciate that very much. I think that was the only one I saw. Last year, the smoking rate went up due to COVID. That was an actual news report. Last year,
What was it? Say it again.
It says last year's smoking rate went up due to COVID? Question mark.
I don't
That
think
was
it
an
was
actual
the
news
smoking
report.
rate that went up. It was cigarette sales.
Yeah,
went
sales
up.
went way up.
Sales went up. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I haven't seen the data myself, but I heard, I think from Dr. Brad or somebody, that National Health Interview Survey data suggested that smoking, the active smoking, there was a reduction. If I'm not mistaken, I have not seen that data for myself, but I did hear that. But it was sales that went up.
How does sales go up but use doesn't?
Bulk buying.
Bulk buying. You think people were panic buying?
I think people were, if you go to this is speculation. I don't know this for a fact. However, if I am concerned about coronavirus and I'm trying not to go out in public very often, instead of going to the gas station every day and buying a pack, I will go once a week and buy 2 cartons or something like that. You know what I mean? So that kind of purchasing. And then we also, it is a phenomena that when you have more of it, like when I used to buy cartons, which I never did, but when I occasionally did,
I never did
tended
either.
to smoke more because I knew I had them. You know what I mean? And I didn't need to go to the store.
Yes.
So that can also, you know, be a thing, but that doesn't mean that there are more people smoking. It just means that the people who are smoking are purchasing larger quantities.
Yep. Okay.
That could be a possible explanation.
Okay. Yes. I get that. I understand that. If you have more on hand, you're going to use it. It's the same way with me and cannabis. Whenever I get whenever I get like a delivery or an order delivered, it's like, well, you know, you always party a little bit, right? Yeah. Let's pack some big bowls. Let's do some big. Yeah, I get that. Right. Okay.
So that is sense. A possible explanation. But it was sales, as I understand it, that was reported as going up. Just so we're all on the same page.
Hey, facts matter.
And being factually correct.
We need to be factually correct on this.
It's a compulsion that I have.
It's a good compulsion. It's why it's one of the reasons why I want you on this stream is your compulsion for fact checking. And your great hair. Doesn't Danielle's hair look great today?
Thanks.
Looks great today.
It's gotten really long. I haven't worn it down in like I have a lot of feelings about my hair, you guys. But today I did use a brand new like purple blue shampoo because, you know, I got my gray.
Yeah,
right?
You get the gray on. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it like changed my hair a little bit, but I think I put too much oil in the ends because they're a little limp. So there's that. But I did wear it down because I know some in chat are like, you wore your hair down, and they get excited.
I love it. I love it.
Don't expect it to go on forever. Okay. Also,
yeah.
This is not a bar I'm setting. You understand? I'm terrible at being a girl, and I hate doing hair. I was also considering chopping it all off. Let me know in the comments if you think I should chop my hair off.
How much of a chop?
I was thinking short.
Like a pixie kind of real short,
yeah,
real short hair.
Like a pixie or like a like just a long
mohawk?
bob or something.
Okay, yeah.
Like short, the shortest I have ever had my hair. I am considering this. Let me know what you think. I wear it up all the time anyway, you guys. Like, should I even have long hair? Like, really though? You know.
Occasionally,
thanks,
though.
Sexy King Phil.
Yeah, when it comes down, see, there you go, Sexy King Phil. When it comes down, it's like a whole other Danielle, you know.
But it's so much effort, you guys.
It is. I mean, I'm assuming it is. I don't know.
Product. There's brushes. There's hot tools.
Yeah.
It's a whole situation. I already do the makeup for you. The hair, sometimes I just can't handle it.
Yeah, look, I've told you this. There's never an obligation to pull yourself together for this stream. If you just rolled in with like your robe on, you know.
I have a purple bathrobe.
Just messy hair, purple bathrobe. You're like, all right, I'm here to talk about vaping. I'd be like, cool.
I feel like we might lose viewers if I do. Because also it doesn't look very professional.
That's true. That's true. We do kind of try to look a little bit professional over here, I guess.
Oh, thanks, Barbara. I'm one of her girl crushes.
Oh, yeah. Pixie cut. Okay, so the chat seems pretty split on whether you should be cutting your hair or not.
Oh, I didn't give them like a X1 yes or X no.
Yeah.
Okay, so I said do
Some
not.
people say yes. Some people say no. Ern says pixie cut. Rob says no. Some people agree. Some people don't agree.
No. Keep that. Oh, there's a lot of no. Are you guys good? Okay. What if I don't chop it all off, but I just go shorter, like shoulder? How do you feel about that? This matters to me, so now I'm negotiating with you. What if I just did shorter, but not like pixie cut? Now what do you think? Weigh in again, please.
Now. So remember,
totally
option
taken
one.
over this stream, and now it's all a hair and makeup stream.
Look, sometimes TBN gets off track. I feel like we at least covered the good stuff. Let me say this from Ern. We do have a few more things to talk about. Yeah. Ern had this chat when we were talking about accidental quitting, but he basically said, I realized that I hadn't smoked a cigarette in 4 days. I just stuck with it. Yeah, that's a very typical accidental quitting smoking story. I realized I had gone 24 hours without a cigarette. I realized I went 2 days without a cigarette, and I just kept going. Because instantly you feel better. Instantly after 48 hours you feel better. after not smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
Instantly. Mm-hmm. All right,
Get
you
that
guys.
taste buds back.
Well, I really wanted to talk about very low nicotine cigarettes, but what I'd like to talk about more instead of that is Matt Culley. Look, I love Matt Culley. He is
Speaking of short, no hair. No, I'm just
speaking
kidding.
of
I
no
love you,
hair,
Matt.
I love Matt Culley. I think he's tremendously smart and he's very well spoken. And I always get mad at his tweets because they're so much
good.
better than mine.
They're so good.
They're just so good. They're so much better than even on Facebook. His Facebook posts are better than mine too. Like
I mean, oh my God.
I need to
Okay,
get my
guys.
shit together here.
When I'm bored and I feel like starting some shit, I go look for Matt Culley posts because he has the most controversial posts, and these are like 300 deep comment, like arguing and all this stuff. If you're bored, that's where you go on Facebook. And I'm like, who can I argue with? Like, yeah, that's a thing. My husband knows what a Matt Culley post means. I'm like, ooh, he's like, what are you doing? You've been on your phone for 2 hours.
You're
I'm like, Matt Culley post. He's
Matt
like,
Culley post.
I'm out of here. Like, no.
I know where this leads. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Matt Culley post. Well, here's the thing. Matt had a great little thread on Twitter that I would like to discuss and maybe expand on a little bit. His first tweet out of the gate said, it's 2022 and it's time for some hard truths. Yeah. The vaping community / industry should stop using these arguments that haven't worked for the last 8+ years I've been involved. It's time to sharpen the message. Here's a thread. And I clicked on this. Instantly when I saw this tweet, I felt attacked. I felt singled out.
That is a natural reaction.
I felt attacked.
But hear him out, guys. Like,
it's really good. It's really,
he's on our side and he wants us to be effective.
Yes. And Matt put this together so well and so eloquently. It's one of those things that I was thinking about. Like, the MSA argument hasn't got us anywhere.
It hasn't.
And nobody, let's just get into this because Matt mentions it.
Let's do it.
Number one, whataboutism. I am overtly guilty of this.
Same.
We do this a lot. Well, what about flavored alcohol? Yes, there's plenty of hypocrisy in this world, but most don't care. Alcohol is part of the culture and its risks are accepted by society. Vaping is still new. Society fights new perceived risks. It's really true.
It is true.
The alcohol argument never gets us anywhere. It doesn't improve our situation, but it feels good every time.
Because it's right.
It feels good.
Because
yeah,
it's right. We
just not
are
effective.
Pointing out hypocrisy, but nobody cares is the problem. So is it really worth us continuing to do it when nobody cares?
Yeah, and I keep, and I had like a trend where, like once a week, I was tweeting some sort of alcohol at Raja Krishnamurthy with like, Care Bear Warheads beer.
Right,
and I'm
right.
oh, this is fine, but vaping. Right.
Exactly.
Nobody
and
cares.
It feels good because it's correct. We are making correct observations.
Yep.
But alcohol is just special and people just don't care.
And that's the thing. Alcohol has already gone through its prohibition growing pains to finally be accepted by society.
Right.
And I feel like it's not that far of a leap from accepting alcohol to accepting vaping and accepting nicotine, because nicotine, besides being beneficial to your brain in a lot of ways, there's lots of benefits to nicotine divorced from tobacco. Mm-hmm. Alcohol only intoxicates. That's its function.
It does have some antioxidant, like they actually say a glass of wine,
like a glass of wine, antioxidants
might actually be. But you're right; it doesn't have any over.
Its primary function is to taste good and fuck you up, intoxicate.
I would agree with that.
That's it. But it's gone through all of that already. It's gone through its prohibition. It's now accepted by society, and we go, it gets you drunk. We don't care.
Right.
Society, we like liquor.
Personal responsibility.
Personal responsibility. And look, I remember a time when drink responsibly was very loud and very forward. And then it was like, drink responsibly, drink responsibly, drink responsibly, drink.
Now they're just like,
It's
drink.
now it's like, drink, Captain Morgan, drink it. Just
Yeah.
go.
Do it.
Yeah. And so that's where we're at. And maybe I like to think that vaping will get there someday. I've talked to a few different people that share this similar like idea that at some point vaping and e-liquid is going to be more along the lines of like a craft beer. Mm-hmm. You know, you'll have small batch e-liquid, you'll have specialty e-liquid, you'll have mass produced, Turning Point brands, Budweiser of e-liquid, and you'll also find, more crafty e-liquids with different flavor profiles. I think that is ultimately where I'd like to see it go, and that's where I'm trying to get it.
Right.
So yeah, the alcohol hypocrisy, it's not
You're
effective.
right, but maybe try something else.
You're right. Yeah, exactly. You're right. But it doesn't. Most people don't care about hypocrisy like that. Most people don't care. So we're off to a strong start with Matt. I agree. Whataboutisms. Can I think of any other whataboutisms?
I have a thought on this. So I think there is a very specific case in which a whataboutism can be effective. And that is if you are speaking with someone on Twitter, if you are perhaps politely debating them, and you take the time to go to their profile and scroll through their feed and find an issue that they care about. I do this all the time, right? So if I'm talking to somebody, I just did it earlier today on Twitter. I'm talking to somebody and they're like, well, there's a lot of credible experts that say vaping is blah, blah, blah. So I went on his profile and I scrolled through and he cares about opioid harm reduction and drug harm reduction. He cares about that and he advocates for it. So I went back and I said, aren't there a lot of credible people that say blah, 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 blah about opioids and drugs? We know that's wrong. What about that? So if you do a whataboutism and show the alternative side of something that they are pro, sometimes you can get their wheels turning. But it requires a moment and looking through their, stuff to find a thing they care about. That can sometimes, at the very minimum, stop somebody short, and make them think for a second. They may not change their mind, but that can be somewhat effective, I have found.
Yeah. Harm reduction, I agree with you absolutely. And chat, Ern says harm reduction is a very important term for us to use. Look what it did for cannabis. Yes, harm reduction is like, this is the rallying cry of like moving forward. Because harm reduction is anti-war on drugs. And the war on drugs is not a popular thing anymore right now. It's just not. And so the idea that the war on drugs obviously failed, obviously was a catastrophic failure, was never really a war on drugs, was only a war on people. Now that that's failed, hey, the alternative is harm reduction. The alternative is empathy. The alternative is meeting people where they're at and stopping the harm now. And I think harm reduction in general, like nicotine, tobacco harm reduction, becoming part of the bigger harm reduction discussion as far as the war on drugs goes, I think can only benefit us. So yeah, I agree with you, Ern. Harm reduction's the way to go. Super chat from Jay Base. I'm sorry, I couldn't read that. Flush niacin. Vitamin B3 is extracted from nicotine. We consume 50 milligrams of niacinamide a day. Niacin is converted into NAD that has health benefits. I don't know enough about that to fact check you.
No, I know nothing of these words.
I will look into. I've been looking at health benefits of nicotine. People that are for it, the science around it, people that are skeptical of the health benefits of nicotine. I have not come across niacin coming from nicotine. Vitamin B3 is extracted from nicotine. Jay Bays, thank you for that information. I'm going to look into that personally because I'm obsessed with nicotine. And thank you for your super chat. Nicotine is, I'm a big fan of nicotine. That's what I'm going to be promoting this year is how much I fucking love nicotine, how much it's helped me. I think that's a solid way to go moving forward. Nicotine kind of rules.
Yep.
Another one from Matt. I think this is MSA.
I feel like this one is targeted at me. I felt personally attacked.
I felt
that.
Yep, I felt that for you. As soon as I was like, "Oh, sorry, Danielle."
It is my fault.
MSA. It's complex. Most people don't explain it well and or get many details wrong, which renders the argument useless. Unless you're a pro on regulation and tax policy, it's best to steer clear.
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong, but man, that's a hard pill to swallow, Matt Culley.
I know. So Matt is as usual correct.
Correct.
The MSA is really complicated. I have seen a lot of people explain it and get a lot of things wrong. And it's just not like the way, I made the goddamn video, right? So obviously I care about it and I do believe that it is important, but it is not the entire story, right? All of this isn't happening because of the MSA. That's not the only thing. And by and large, most politicians, it's not even on their radar. They're not super you've heard these guys. A lot of them would ban smoking if they could, completely. Sales. They can't, but a lot of them, or they would do things like this. So it's not the driving force behind everything. It is a factor that we need to consider.
A component, I think, is a good way to put it. It's a component to this, but it can't be like the lead argument.
No.
Right? It can't be you can't get up at a public health hearing and say you only want to ban flavors so you can get more MSA money. Everyone on the panel would go, "What are you fucking talking about?"
Yeah, no, I wouldn't go with that. More likely what is going on is Matt Myers or the Truth Initiative is telling people lies and convincing them that this is what they do to save children. That's really what's more going on right now. This is a moral panic situation. The MSA factors into this, and it is important to understand when you're talking about how what am I trying to say? How things get set up and how things work. It's important to understand what industries and what governmental organizations rely on money and how creating, steady streams like this can influence certain things, but it's not the answer to the question. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm saying a lot of words right now, but it's not everything. It's just something to consider.
Yeah, it's just a part of it. The problem with the MSA is because your video was so good, it was a very convincing video. And
because a lot of people didn't know.
A lot of people didn't know. Yeah, absolutely. So now it's like we feel like we've discovered some information that, this is the smoking gun. This is going to blow everybody's, everybody's heads away. But really it's not. And it's just so easy to remember. MSA.
Right.
Oh, it sticks in your brain. You go, MSA, Master Settlement Agreement. States' revenue sources are directly tied to cigarette sales. It seems like such a compelling argument, but it never works. No. It never works. Nobody's
most people don't even believe you. The general public, I've talked to people about this on Twitter, and they're like, no, that's not true. And I'm like, okay.
Okay, well, it definitely is a real thing.
It definitely
Master Settlement Agreement
is real. But
very established thing. You could talk to Iowa Attorney General Tom Miller about the Master Settlement Agreement.
Right.
He's very well aware that it's a very real thing. So the MSA, look, maybe we'll pump the brakes on the MSA. And, I can't help but think of, I got a hoodie during EVALI, later on after EVALI kind of happened that it was someone making advocacy, merch. Swag, merch. And it was a big dollar bill on it, like $100 bill. And it said, vaping flavor bans are about MSA blood money, and it had blood money all drippy, and I was like, I'm never gonna wear this. What are you, crazy? Of course I would never wear this. A, that's not the whole argument, and two, MSA blood money, you just look like a psychopath.
I don't. Perhaps not, Perhaps not.
Perhaps not.
Perhaps not. It's super catchy. I totally
It
get
is.
it.
MSA
And
blood
all
money.
of this is my fault, and I take full responsibility for it.
Mm-hmm.
But
What Ian says here in the chat, anti-vaping zealots are running out of child use to argue with. Kids don't think vaping is cool anymore. It's not new. You are 100% right. We
That
have
is
seen
true.
an over 60% drop in youth vaping in the last 2 years. It was clearly a fad.
yeah.
Clearly a fad, and it's not even one of those things. You're never going to be able to say "I told you so" about youth vaping, and I find that upsetting. I like a very rewarding "I told you so." You're not going to get it with youth vaping. Okay, what's this last one that Matt has to say? This one is. He says this one is nuanced, but hopefully you'll get my point. While we shouldn't stop explaining how many businesses have been ruined, most people won't care if they think you are selling poison. So you have to get people to understand THR before complaining about the revenue lost. Yes. This one I'm 100% on board with.
Yeah. And if you don't
100%.
understand what he's saying, consider this. Okay. Let's talk about drugs for a minute. Like drugs, marijuana, coke, methamphetamines, all the drugs.
Coke,
right?
using the slang term there, using the casual terminology.
I've never
there.
even used it before, you guys. I think it's because I'm drinking Coke, so I just said it.
Yeah,
out
that
loud.
could be. Yeah.
It's zero sugar cherry cola, by the way.
Harm reduction. Right?
Okay, so when we talk about illicit drugs, imagine, if you will, that a certain sect of advocates was going around saying, but all of the jobs you're costing the drug suppliers, right? People who sell other people drugs, drug dealers. Let's say, for example, you were arguing for their economic. That argument is going to fall on deaf ears, right?
Yeah, no one's going to give two
I'm not,
shits.
and I don't agree with this, but people think that drug dealers are evil, right? They think that. I don't subscribe to that, and we could talk about that another time if you would like. However, that is what most people think. Drug dealer bad. So if you're going to talk about them losing their jobs, no one is going to care, right?
Yep.
That's how a lot of people think about vape shops. And so for the average person, they don't care that your small business is shutting down because they think that you are hurting children.
Right.
Now, when you talk to legislators and politicians, yes, you absolutely want to talk about businesses because I believe that they are a little bit more well-versed in this for the most part. And they do care about tax dollars and things like that at the end of the day. But the average Joe down the street, that's what Matt's talking about. That argument doesn't work well. Sorry
doesn't.
to take that over, but
No, you explained it flawlessly. And honestly, and I'm not trying to just be like, hey, me too. But this is something I was thinking about before Matt said anything. When we see, I don't remember who, maybe it might have been the American Vapor Manufacturers Association. Someone was posting, oh, this shop had to close. This shop had to close. Look at, you're decimating this industry. And for vapors to see that, I was heartbroken. Personally, I was heartbroken. But I could also see how the average American just absorbing, whatever the CDC says would go, good.
yeah.
Because vaping is bad. It's hurting kids. So it's
Right.
good that you're out of business.
Right.
That's what's going to happen. Until we can change public opinion about what is actually going on with these, the business argument, I agree with Matt. The business argument isn't going to work very well.
That's a step 2 argument. You have to get them over step 1, which is harm reduction, and that this is actually vaping is actually a good thing. If you're past that point, then you can totally talk about businesses. But if you're not, they're not going to care.
Yeah, they're totally not going to care. Totally not going to care. And that's kind of it. Matt wrapped up and said, there's plenty of others I could rant about, but I think this is a good start. Feel free to drop some dead arguments you think we should get past. Happy New Year. I think Matt kind of hit them all on the head. I went through the rest of this, the thread and didn't see anything that really grabbed my eye, you know. It's a lot of people being upset that we don't have money backing us. You know, we're up against fucking Mike Bloomberg philanthropies, like
I
just
know.
a billionaire. Like, we're competing with a billionaire. So
Right.
get over it. Of course we don't have the funding that Mike Bloomberg has.
Nope.
No, that doesn't stop a societal movement like this, though. I mean, it didn't stop people from advocating for cannabis. It doesn't stop people from advocating for, you know, anti-war on drugs, safe drug supply. It doesn't stop, you know, societal movements, and we just kind of need to get over that we're underfunded.
Right. And we also need to get over that this is going to take a long time. Because
Yeah.
how long has the war on drugs been going on? How long has cannabis been
Since
fighting for
Nixon.
legalization? Right. Like, these things take a long time, right? They just do. And so, you know, we need to understand that this is a war, and this is a long war.
1971, Nixon started the war on drugs. 1971, and it wasn't until 2017 that California was finally recreational legal for cannabis.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, that sounds right.
That is a long war on cannabis.
It is.
That is a long ass war on cannabis.
It takes a while to sway public perception, and that is what is necessary to get policy changes like what we're talking about, to get legalization, to get laws changed.
It has to have public
You have
support.
to have public opinion,
Yeah.
because the public has to then say to their legislators, I want you to do this, you schmuck.
Yeah.
Like, that's what they have to, you know what I mean? And so it takes a long time.
Yeah.
It does.
It takes a long time. My hope is that because we live in, you know, the technological information internet age, that it might not take quite as long as cannabis did from 1971 till 2017.
I sure hope not.
I can't imagine it. It has to move faster than that. Just because
We've got better
everything moves
science
faster
now.
than that,
We've
right?
got better technology. We can study things quicker,
Yep.
you know, and more efficiently. I
Data
agree
sets
with that.
better. We can, you know, the choke point seems to be the public messaging of it.
Yeah.
Like, funneled through CDC, funneled through FDA, we get
even mainstream
garbage
media.
messaging. Yeah.
Yeah.
Funneled through
I mean,
mainstream media,
yeah.
garbage messaging. That is the bottleneck. We've got mountains of science. We've got loads of data. The CDC's own National Youth Tobacco Survey shows that youth vaping is down over 60% in the last 2 years. But unless that's, you know, on TV or on whatever, I don't know what people watch anymore.
I
have no idea. I posted a tweet.
Netflix. We need a Netflix
we
show
need
that has a really
Netflix.
relatable character who vapes and talks about tobacco harm reduction. That's what we need.
What
right?
a compelling character that would be.
Couldn't Dexter have been vaping or something? Come on,
Yeah,
man. Like,
seriously.
we need. I mean, Mayor of Easttown, she vaped. That
Yeah,
was good.
and they
I
didn't
liked
even
that.
address it. And
No,
she
it
was
was
just an
just-
adult that vaped instead of smoked.
Right. Nobody was like, meh, 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 meh.
Yeah.
It's just what she did. I liked it. And I've seen several. There's a Amazon Solo. I don't know if anybody watches those. Where Anne Hathaway's character in one of them, she vaped. Like, we need more of that. People need to see it and not be so freaked out by it, basically.
Yes. People need to see it and not be, and that is going to take time.
It is.
If there's one thing that seems overwhelming to me with vape advocacy and activism, it's changing public opinion. That just seems like such a daunting task. And look, I'm here for it. I want to try in every way I possibly can. But man, that seems daunting.
I mean, it's one of those things, right? There's some quote, and I can't remember where it comes from, but I always think of it when we talk about changing public perception. It's like it happens slowly and then all at once.
Yes.
That's how these things go.
Who said someone that
I
sounds
don't know.
familiar
It's a famous
to me?
quote. Does anyone in chat know where it's? One of those things that sticks in my head. It might be a poem. I don't know. But slowly and then all at once.
Yeah,
That's how it happened.
Dave Chappelle is the guy for this job. Look, Dave Chappelle, he was
I mean,
vaping
he actually-
a lot, and
There
he
was
addressed it.
He did, and there was an episode. If you watched, what was that dude who did comedians in cars getting coffee or whatever the hell? Did you watch that?
Jerry Seinfeld?
Yeah. He had an episode
That
with
dude?
Chappelle. Yeah,
Okay.
that dude. Sorry, I'm not a Seinfeld fan. I can't
Jerry
stand it.
Seinfeld. He's like a legendary comedian.
I'm sorry, I don't like that show. He had Dave
Still,
Chappelle on an episode.
I mean, it's Jerry Seinfeld. Okay, I'm just
Well, I
kidding.
couldn't remember if that was his character's name or his real name. I told you I'm bad with names.
Yeah, that's fine.
They had Dave Chappelle on an episode, and I remember they were like in a restaurant or a cafe, and he asked him about vaping, and Chappelle was actually talking about it, and he wasn't perfect, but he was pretty darn good. I
was
remember
pretty
thinking,
spot on.
oh, okay. And then from what I understand, he quit vaping after a volley and went back to smoking.
Yeah.
And in his latest special, I believe he was smoking. I think,
He was.
if I'm not
He was
mistaken.
smoking cigarettes.
And I'm real sad about it.
Yeah, bums me out.
Yeah.
Avali did that to a few people. There was a rapper guy who I might not be saying his name right. Lil Xan? Does that sound like a rap guy? Lil Xan?
I have no idea.
XAN? I feel like I'm right about this, but this is just, my 44-year-old white guy showing. I think his name is Lil Xan. And there was an Instagram video of him post Ivali, him and his crew just smoking cigarettes like crazy, throwing their jewels out the window of the car and just smoking cigarettes. He's like, those jewels are going to kill you, man. It's back to cigarettes. And they were just smoking cigarettes. And I was like, oh, no. Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? Why? Oh, who tricked you? Like, who grifted you into thinking that cigarettes are the better option to jewel?
Thanks, CDC.
Thanks a lot, CDC. Thanks a lot.
I 100% completely and totally blame them for that.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And it's going to take
Completely.
forever to change people's perceptions about that. Because even thinking to my own life, when I'm presented with contrary evidence or a contrary argument, your first reaction is to go, no, come on.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And then if you hear it again, you kind of go, still no. Still no. You hear it again, you kind of go, okay, well, this is uncomfortable because now I have to challenge the way that I've been thinking. Now I have to challenge the ideas that I have. And if you're not willing to go through that uncomfortable phase of changing your worldview, man, it's going to be hard to get to you. People have to kind of be willing to be able to change their minds when new information comes out. And the CDC has hammered home for so long, for so many years, that vaping is, not only going to not help you quit smoking cigarettes, but that it might actually kill you because of Ivali. They're just doing damage. This is harm. They're just causing harm. Anyway, this doesn't really get us anywhere other than ranting about it, but
It's true.
It's still fun to rant about it. Anyway, let's see. We're creeping up on 2 hours here. I think we're going to call it good. We'll just save very low nicotine cigarettes for the next TBN. They're not going anywhere.
They're not.
They're not going anywhere. They're going to be in every corner store across the United States. Right next to regular cigarettes, you could get cigarettes that won't satisfy you as much, with all of the harm still included.
All the harm.
All of the combustion.
But
All the combustion, all the harm,
do you
all the
want to buy
crap.
shitty cigarettes?
Yeah.
Don't you? Doesn't that sound great?
No, it sounds terrible. And look, I can't speak for anybody but myself. But when I was a cigarette smoker, if there was an option for lower nicotine cigarettes, I would have just laughed at them while purchasing a carton of Marlboro Smooths.
Yeah.
I would have been like, you can't be serious.
Yeah.
You can't be serious. Low nicotine cigarettes?
Why do?
Okay, why though?
I feel like most people are going to be like, well, I'll just quit if I want to stop. And then
Right.
they don't quit. That's
Right.
what's going to.
Well, if that's my only option, I'll just quit or keep smoking my regular cigarettes, my brand.
Like, why would I do that? I
and
don't
he-
want that.
And there's another component to this that's like, I know we're not talking about very low nicotine cigarettes, but cigarette smokers, at least when I was a cigarette smoker, you had a brand.
Oh, yeah.
Every cigarette smoker I've ever met has had a brand. Their
Brand
pack.
loyalty is next level.
Next
with
level.
cigarettes. Like
Next
I
level.
would argue that brand loyalty, the only in cigarette smokers, the only thing that might like come to a similar would be like, you know, Apple versus Android, or cars, like people who are like a particular car manufacturer enthusiast.
Yes.
Like, other than that, like, it's great. Like, I would go to multiple gas stations if I couldn't find like my particular, or I would always have like a backup. Like, I like this one, but I also like this one. Okay, too. Like, it's very.
I was the same way.
Are people just
Same
going to
way.
switch to some rando
No.
22nd century? Who the hell are they?
Yeah.
I don't even know what they.
Well,
like,
they're the
I
ones
was a
pushing for
Camels
very
girl.
low nicotine cigarettes. This 22nd century group. They're
I
the
know.
ones lobbying for this.
Well, it's their product. It's their cigarette.
It's their cigarettes. Rifleman, I saw you there in the chat. It said that if as nicotine is reduced, you just consume more cigarettes. Let me tell you that in my brain, that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
But unfortunately, a lot of the science kind of disagrees with you.
Yeah, I also think it's a we'll see situation, because studies are not always the same. As much as they try to mimic the real world, it's not always the same, right?
It's not always the same.
It's not always the same. We shall see.
We shall
Also, people got back to me. Apparently, that quote that I remembered is Ernest Hemingway. The sun also rises. I may have butchered it a little bit, but the general consensus is that's where it came from.
Oh, Hemingway.
I'm quoting Hemingway.
Damn,
guys.
quoting Hemingway. Yeah, see, Subaru for life. People, my brother drove a Subaru for since he was born, and now he drives a Subaru. And he's like, Subies for life. Subies can hang. He's like a Subaru guy.
I'm into the Subies.
See, I'm that way with Toyota.
they're
The
fine.
first car I ever bought was a Toyota, and I
Sure, why
had
not?
no problems with it. It ran for well over 100,000 miles. I never had any issues with it. I thought Toyota's it. Toyota's my brand. The next car I bought, Toyota.
Yep. I'm all about Subies now. I had a horrendous experience with Ford that we won't get into today. I am anti-Ford 100%, but I am totes pro Subi.
You're pro Subi? Yeah.
Yeah, we have a
Living that
cross-track.
Subi
I
life.
love it.
I had a Ford Explorer, which turned me into an anti-Ford person.
My husband and I had quite the debacle with two different cars. Never again.
Never again. I'll say never again to Ford, and that's about it. I'll say yes again to Honda because I drove a Honda for a really, really long time. So I like Hondas, but Toyota's my jam now. Until I can sell it and get a Tesla.
Toyotas. I had a Celica, and I had a Yaris. I also had my other car was a Jeep. I had a Mazda. I had a Mazda RX-8, you guys.
Oh, see, so you were kind of you were all over the car
boys
brands.
Stopped to talk to me when I got gas. I had a cherry red Mazda RX-8, rotary engine. You guys had the
Did
paddles.
people honk at you and want to race all the time?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I had a guy follow me around town until I raced him in a cornfield. Okay, I could tell you stories about. There was some good times with that car. Let me tell you. But yeah, I had a Mazda, and I think that's most of the cars that I've had. I never had a Honda. Never had a Hyundai. Never had. I've never had a lot of Chevy.
You know who I've never owned, but I'm enjoying their complete rebrand is Kia. When did Kia become like a serious car company?
A little bit cool, right?
Yeah,
right?
they
Like
did.
a little bit.
I was shocked. I was like, look at you, Kia. You're like a edgy car company now. Like people drive a Kia and they go, I drive a Kia.
Right.
Whereas
Buick
before
is like trying
you'd say,
to do
I don't know.
that. The Buick commercials, they're like really trying, and I'm like, oh. I mean, I don't know. Your cars might be fine, but I'm not going to buy one. Sorry,
not going to buy a Buick.
Not
Toyota, Honda, Mazda. See, I've never owned a Mazda.
I had the Mazda.
I drove a circa 1996 Ford Exploder for a very long time and had nothing but issues with it. Nothing but issues with it. But Toyotas, man, I'm telling you. In fact, I don't even drive a Toyota. I drive a Scion, which is like a Toyota
Oh
sub
yeah,
brand.
it's an offshoot. That's still Toyota.
It is. All over the engine it says Toyota. My window
Yeah,
says
yeah.
Toyota. It's like, this is clearly a Toyota car.
No, I'm a fan. I haven't had any issues. I like my Toyotas. They're totally fine. I feel like Subaru is just like, in my mind, they're like, no drama. It just works. It lasts for forever. It's good for a lot of terrains.
Yeah.
Like,
It
you
smells
just
like
won't
granola, you know.
have problems. Okay? You just won't. And after our Ford debacle, that's what we were looking for. Just a car
Just
and it
give
works,
me a Subi.
and it's reliable and it's safe.
Yeah.
And it's decent quality. That's what we're looking for.
Well, here's the thing. My wacky brain and the wacky ideologies I have, I've been dabbling into the anti-car sort of circles. There's large swaths of groups on the internet that are anti-car. And I'm
known as
kind of
bicyclists?
fascinated with it.
I'm confused.
Not so much like bicyclists, just the idea that, and look, I'm kind of on board with this, just the idea that our entire society and every city in the United States of America is caters to cars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
If you don't have a car, you're fucked.
That's true.
There's no public transport really in Los Angeles. We have a really cruddy public transport. It's
We have
terrible.
one up here that's not terrible, but it could be better. Yeah.
So basically, they're proponents of like closing down big roads and turning them into like, you know, pedestrian walkways and gardens and shops and things for people to walk and public transport.
I'm mass public trans. I'm
Mass
cool with.
public trans. I'm so on board for that. So on board for it.
I used to sleep on BART in my hour each way trip from my house to my college, which was in downtown San Francisco. That was my extra nap time. I slept. I got an extra hour on the way there and an extra hour on the way back. It was
Yeah,
great.
fuck yeah, sleeping on the BART.
Yeah, I slept
Sleeping
on the
on
BART.
the BART.
I had a whole
train.
like how I cuddled myself up and like wrapped myself in my bag so I like didn't move anywhere, you know, because you see those people that are like sprawled out. I didn't want to be that person.
No,
So
don't
I
be
was,
that
like,
person.
I would like straight jacket myself and then like just like that was me on the BART. And I always woke up right before my station without fail for 3 years.
You just sensed it. It was like your
Yep.
spidey sense. It
Yep.
was like, this is my stop.
Yep.
You knew it.
It's so weird. Yep.
I started subscribing to like the anti-car ideology a little bit after I got back from Amsterdam and went to some European cities and was like, oh wow, all this is really walkable and really nice, clean, fast public transportation gets me literally anywhere.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Amsterdam would totally convince
Yeah,
anybody.
I was like,
feel they know
Yeah,
how
fuck
to do
cars.
that.
Yeah, fuck cars. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's
no, I
my
agree.
newest.
If we could be Amsterdam, hell yes.
Yeah,
My
I'm
husband
here
and I
for
went
it.
down to one car. I would love to go down.
Did
to
you?
no
We were
car.
thinking about going
We did.
down to one car.
Oh yeah, we went down to one. We did it pre-pandemic actually. Because we had two, and at some point after I started working from home full time pre-pandemic,
Yeah.
we were just like. Also, we lived in a place where my husband could walk to the mass public train station.
Yeah.
and take public
Yeah.
trains to work every day. So I wasn't using a car. He wasn't using a car. We were like, why do we have two cars? We don't need them.
Yeah.
So we went down to one.
Damn, that's gonna. I think it's gonna happen to us too.
And we
I
have
think it's inevitable.
ridiculously. I don't even think we bought our car. Oh, I'm going to get it wrong. I wish my husband were here. We bought our car, I want to say in 2018, I think. And I'm pretty sure we just hit 5,000 miles, I think.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so
we
that's like
hardly
no
drive.
driving. Yeah, we
No.
we hardly drive anymore anywhere. It's hard to justify having two cars. Also, I just paid off my car. Big boy
Oh,
move.
nice.
Yeah, felt good.
Big boy move.
I randomly went
Yeah.
on like the Toyota financing website and I'm like, how much is left on this car? And it's like $1,500. And I said,
Bam.
done. I am paying
Bye.
a car off. Yeah. Felt good. Felt good.
Ding.
Pay off a car. Own it. Outright now.
Yes. Amazing.
So we might end up selling it anyway.
Do you see the wee baby Seamus in chat? He thinks it's possible that I know how to drive stick. No.
No, millennials don't know how to drive stick shift.
No,
And
we
that's
don't know
not
how
a
to drive
slam on millennials. That's just,
That's who we are.
That's
man.
who you
I
are.
don't do that. Why?
Well, here's the thing.
And you can say car things, but I use a car to get from point A to point E efficiently.
Yeah.
So why?
Listen, I wouldn't drive a stick shift in Los Angeles, California.
Oh, in almost anywhere in California is a terrible idea. Between the hills of San Francisco and the traffic in the state.
That.
Are you kidding me?
San Francisco with a stick shift?
Oh my God.
Good. Could you imagine? That's my nightmare.
I'm pretty sure that has caused many accidents.
But I can drive stick, and I'm pretty good at it. And my first car was a stick shift, and I learned how to drive on a stick, and I drove around. And I remember the first time I got an automatic car, I felt like I wasn't driving anymore. I was like, where's the feel? Where's the gear that I'm supposed to be in? This car's just picking a gear for me, and I'd like to. It felt. When you drive a stick shift, you feel much more connected to the driving experience. It's much less passive. It's an active driving experience, you know. That's the only way I can describe it.
Yeah, I'm counting down the days for self-driving cars when I can nap while the car takes. I want to be the most disconnected to the driving experience.
Yeah, that's why I want a Tesla. Driving. That's why I want a Tesla. See, Doug here says, I'm a millennial and I have 3 manual cars.
Oh, well,
there you go. He is. He can drive a stick shift. If it came down to it and it was like you had to make an escape and there was only a stick shift car, I could get away. You could not.
Well, okay. Here, so somebody explained it to me and sort of taught me one time. And in my defense, I only tried it once, but I did not stall. I got the car going without stalling. Now I got so excited that I had done that then the car stalled later because I was celebrating and not paying attention.
Sure.
But I would give me a 50-50 shot at being able to get away.
Right.
If the only car. 50-50. I might, it's a slow, right? You try.
Yeah, it's slow, but it's kind of different. That's a good general thing to do. Yeah, it's a little bit different on every single car. On my Volkswagen bus, I had to pull the clutch out like damn near like all the way before it would finally catch the gear. But on my Honda, it was just a little foot motion, and when you learn it and you can feel the gears, you can shift just real quickly and real smoothly. You're just like clutch done. Right. It's a cool experience. If I had if I had just like a for fun car, like a Jeep or something that I just drove every once in a while, like out to the desert or something, it would definitely be a stick shift. That would be Kick-Ass 9000. So in closing, stick shifts are fun. I'm just kidding. Actually, technically, in closing, I think that's all we have for today's TBN show. I asked us a question in the chat if anybody had watched Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
56% of you said no. What? So I'm not going to even bring up Book of Boba Fett. Tim J had a super chat that said Tesla Model S Plaid for the speed. Look, the Tesla Model S Plaid is the dream, but I think I'm going to settle for a Model 3 at some point, and I'm not going to buy it. I'm going to lease it because it's technology.
Yeah, you should not.
And I'm going to lease it.
I don't know. I have a friend who has one, and he was like, yeah, I was trying to do a software update, and the software update failed, and the car's a brick now.
Yeah.
You can't even turn it on. And I heard that, and I was like, nope.
I've heard that from people, but really that's not enough to throw me off. Like my phone's been a brick before, and I still buy iPhones.
Yeah, but you don't need your phone to get to work. You do need your car to get to work.
I might need the navigation. Actually, I don't need a car to get to work. I just walk.
Well, okay, not anymore.
Down my hallway.
For me, a software update taking my car out of commission.
Yeah, that could kind of suck. But here's the thing. The technology is only going to get better. So software updates and bricking is going to be a thing of the past. Like one of my favorite things that Elon Musk did recently was he's sending satellites up into space to make sure that Teslas across the world have their own dedicated Wi-Fi.
Right.
And a politician called him out on this and was like, well, how does that work, regulatorily with communications and things like this? And Elon Musk's answer was basically like, try to stop me. They're already going into space.
Really regulations for that.
Someone was very concerned about private satellites in space. And I
There's
said,
tons of private satellites in space.
look,
What Sirius Satellite
know.
Radio has their own satellite.
their own satellite. They launched their own satellite.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure private satellites has been a thing for a while.
Yeah, there's a lot of junk floating around our planet.
Oh, there's trash too.
Lots of trash. Lots of space trash.
Yeah.
That's what basically what the ISS is going to become, just space trash. I know, that's sad.
Have you been following
Yes.
Weber? Oh,
Yeah.
we didn't even talk about
We watched the launch.
Webb? Yeah.
Yeah, it's fully deployed now.
Yeah, the mirrors are out.
The mirror's fully deployed out. And I love comparing, we can talk about this off air, but I like comparing Hubble. I like the comparisons between Hubble and James Webb.
I love Hubble.
Because Hubble was amazing. Like, Hubble was incredible. Technological feat. And seeing that compared now to James Webb, you're like, Hubble what? Hubble's like a Flintstone
SD
car.
versus UHD or
Yeah.
XHD or whatever they're calling it now.
Yeah, it's a big leap.
1080 to
It's a
4K.
big
Are you
leap.
kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
I know. But Hubble is still
Look, Hubble's still great, and Hubble will be out there till Hubble doesn't work anymore.
burns up into the atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah, eventually that's what's going to happen. Okay, let's wrap
All right,
this up,
we
you
should go.
guys.
We should
Hey,
go.
listen, thank you everybody for coming out. I appreciate the advocates and activists that are here today that, we want to get on the same page. We want to learn. We want to be effective. We want to have good arguments. We want to be knowledgeable about things like legislation and harm reduction and the science behind this. And that's why we do this. And it really means a lot to me to do this, and it really means a lot to me to see you guys here actually caring. Not a Crafty username in with the super chat says the moon is a satellite and it's very private and has only had a handful of visitors. That is technically the truth. It is.
It's fact checked. That is a fact check
the
approved.
Truth.
Super chat.
Yeah,
Yep.
It's been fact checked by our very own Danielle Jones, and
Well done, not a crafty username.
not a Crafty username. Although that is
A crafty.
a Crafty username. Interesting.
So meta right now.
Did you see they found that square on the moon?
What?
Did you see there's a Chinese rover on the moon right now, and it sent back these pictures of what looked like a square structure, like a big square structure on the
Is
moon.
this fake news?
No. It turns when they got closer, it turns out it was just a big rock. There was a big
I was
square shaped
gonna say,
rock. Yeah, big square shaped rock. But for a second there, I was really excited. Like, whoa, what is that on the moon? Anyway, peace out, you guys. Thank you, Danielle, for being here. It wouldn't be the same stream without you. I hope you know that. And we really appreciate you. I appreciate all you guys in chat. Let's keep this going into 2022. It's literally just a matter of time, I believe, before harm reduction and safer nicotine products win.
Yep.
And they are going to win because they work. They'll always work, and the science is
Even when you're
always
not
going to
even
be on
trying.
the side. Even when you're not even trying.
They work that well.
They work so well. Unbelievable. Appreciate you guys. Peace out. I still don't have an intro, so we can just wave until this is done here. I'm going to say bye.